When someone asks you about your key themes for detox, what's the first things that you tend to think about when we bring up, say, detox as a term? What do
Yeah,
you think about first?
yeah. Well, it is a pretty fatty term, isn't it? And people even just taking some juices for a day will call that a detox. And I want to go into some detail about how that's a fairly limited way to go about detoxing. And we've got to talk about detoxifying as a biochemic process where poisons are being decomposed, breaking from their toxic form into a form that can be eliminated by the body. As compared to elimination. So, a lot of people, of course, we're in a profession, so we differentiate a little bit more carefully. But a lot of people don't differentiate between elimination and detoxification, which, as I just mentioned, detoxification is often very biochemic, but elimination is part of everyday function. Um, so that we've got the skin elimination, the breath elimination, the kidney, the bowel, and through the bile and so on. And there are different organs involved in that, so a lot to do with the lymphatic system, for instance. So if somebody's got a blocked up kidney or lymphatic system, they're often not eliminating well, or perhaps they do need a detox, as an example. But when we talk about detoxing, I think we also have to bring in the concept of endotoxicity. And that brings into the conversation, just briefly, because I don't want to get bogged into this part today. But endotoxicity means the kind that you're making in your own bowel, and that's thanks to all of those genes that don't belong to you, the microbiome, and they can produce a lot of junk. And yes, if they're also inflaming your liver, as lipopolysaccharides do, LPS, and that's really you can use endotoxins for patients, and in your mind you're talking about lipopolysaccharides, a very pro-inflammatory molecule that can induce fever, certainly can induce inflammation in the gut lining. Now when that happens, the gut lining becomes 30% more porous to toxins in general, anything that's like pesticides or whatever else was in the food, apart from the endotoxins themselves. So that, of course, goes through the intrahepatic circulation back up to the liver first port, and so endotoxicity from the gut puts a lot of strain upon the liver. Phil and I were writing something just recently on how endotoxicity very often comes into causing fatty liver, and that'll come out of one of our written articles quite soon. Look out for it, because it starts to put a few things together. But endotoxicity certainly loads up many people, and oftentimes I'm coming towards the end of a session where I've just outlined how to get rid of their SIBO or their candida, and it's like they're on this special diet where they're not eating carbs and da-da-da-da-da. And they'll ask me, can I do a detox?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we've just started.
I think what I'm hearing there is a really, really key point, and I think you've nailed it in the sense that susceptibility to external toxins actually starts from internal toxins created from the environment within your bacteria and also some of these processes. Is that a fair way to describe it, or would you build on that a little bit more?
There is something interesting in that piece, that when we start looking into the genetics of individuals, and we start to look at, GSTM1, that's producing glutathione, GST-T1, and then there's got other ones that help you to recycle, like the GPX. A bunch of different SNPs that many people have under-functioning. The GSTM1 probably the worst one to have, and it's 40% of people. So it's a biggie. So what you're saying there, Phil, is we all do get exposed to environmental pollutants, but it's those poor folk who don't have the glutathionation working well, or perhaps the methylation. We'll talk about that detoxing process in a bit. But, if they're not functioning, even the poor little sods who inside of mothers these days, babies are born day one with between 200 and 300 measurable levels of pollutants in them just before they take a breath. It's just been donated from mum. If mum has a lot of mercury and the child has a poor ability to methylate or to create their glutathione, they come out brain impaired, and this seems to be the common theme to most of the autistic spectrum children, perhaps ADHD in some cases too, but we were talking about children being born so overloaded with toxins that their brain function will not recover unless given all of the ingredients necessary for the detoxification processes to kick back in again. And these are very common issues.
It's. I think that the key part about this is that already we've mentioned the person's ancestral code or their genetics. We've mentioned another unique fingerprint to them, which we also find out now is somewhat hereditary in the form of the microbiome. Before we've even mentioned the environment, and I think that that's a really it fascinates me in that. To your point about the digestive element as well, it kind of fascinates me that we are somewhat obsessive about, and rightly so, to be fair. I mean, I don't want to undervalue, mold toxins especially, and, things like mercury and I mean, gosh, you name it, like the petrochemicals and things like that. But I think where people might be missing their detox regimes, and this might be a common mistake, is actually looking primarily inside or internally